So this is the M1 near to Leeds. If you look at the central reservation, you'll notice that it's a brand new concrete barrier, a brand new safety barrier. We need to discuss it on the trucker's eye.
Safety dance, oh the safety dance.
This section of the M1 from junction 43 to 47, where it meets the A1, was opened in 1999. The central reservation was nothing more than a steel cable. Now, if there are any drivers that have driven this section of motorway across the last 12 months, you've probably been stuck in a traffic jam, and this is because they've been upgrading this safety barrier to a concrete one. As you can see from this BBC story, in March 2024, drivers were being warned of delays whilst the work was completed. For the barrier needing to be replaced just 25 years after it was first opened, surely someone has to answer the question as to why the job wasn't done properly in the first place. Was it just a case of that's how they built the central reservation barriers at that time? The purpose of this video, however, is not that they are replacing the barrier, it's how they're replacing the barrier. Let's get a bit further down the road and into the roadworks and take a look. So this is now on the northbound side, heading up towards Skelton Lake, and between the two carriageways you'll see that the concrete barrier is all but finished. But if we move the footage on, as we go across the Air Valley Viaduct, you might notice that they've used metal rather than concrete at this section. Now originally I thought this might have something to do with the expansion and contraction of the bridge. Obviously concrete is not known for its flexibility, even though according to AI, concrete will expand and contract with temperature rises and drops. Then you'll notice a section of the road where the barrier hasn't yet been built yet. But just after this we return back to the concrete barrier. But keep your eye on this concrete barrier, because very shortly you're going to see something change. That's right, it's back to being a metal barrier again, and a flimsy looking one at that. So does anybody actually know why they're doing this? Why is most of this section of the M1 so important that it needs a concrete barrier, whilst other sections are only getting a metal barrier? It's a good mile or two before we find the end of the metal barrier and the return to the concrete barrier. Hopefully after more than a year of delays in the area, the work is almost complete. Unfortunately, I can't find any sort of sign of what this project cost. But 80 or so miles away, another project that's very similar to this one has already been completed. And we know the cost. And so this is us entering the M53 from the M56. We're now heading towards Birkenhead Docks. And if you look at the central barrier, you'll see that it's another metal barrier, just like the one at Leeds. This metal barrier seems to alternate quite quickly with a concrete barrier. And this seems to go on for the duration of the works that were carried out in 2024. Now I don't think anybody could argue against these metal barriers looking far safer than the cable barriers that we've seen on the M1. But they do look really flimsy, and far more flimsy than the concrete barriers that are intermittent on this road. So if you do have a blowout or a medical episode or whatever that makes your vehicle cross the central reservation, is it just a lottery? And here's another thing, this scheme on the M53 cost £7 million. How on earth does replacing the central motorway barrier with both a mixture of metal and concrete sections cost £7 million? In comparison with the stretch by Leeds, this was only a very short stretch by Ellesmere Port that they had to do, but still it costs £7 million. But here's another thing, that whole section of the M1 by Leeds was meant to be replaced with a complete concrete barrier. So why have the authorities now put a 2-mile stretch of a metal barrier in on the M1? Surely logic tells us that the concrete barrier is a lot more safe. Otherwise, why have they put it in on the majority of the M1? It just doesn't seem to make any sense at all. Let me know if you've seen this kind of thing going on. Have you driven down the M1 and been stuck in them roadworks? Are they going to have to redo them roadworks again at some point to replace the metal barrier for that small section? I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you all next time. On the trucker's eye.